thinking big thoughts so you don't have to.
Thank you, Kim.
Here's John Williams.
I got some big thoughts today. One of them is a refined version of yesterday's thought. I thought it was really a good thought, and then I was told otherwise. I'm going to work it again today. Thomas Jefferson, third president of the United States, will join us today. Haven't talked to him in a while. We will on stage soon. I want you there. Yeah, we'll tell you about tickets, and we'll check in with TJ, as I like to call him. We have two shows coming up. We almost always do them now at the College of DuPage. It's centrally located. It's a great venue. They got really nice people out there. No reason not to do anything with the good folks at the College of DuPage, but we like to spread the love around. So our traveling series of shows I do with various presidents, Teddy Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, Meriwether Lewis, of course, the great explorer, will now head a little north. We will be in Elgin at Elgin Community College. The theater there is called the Blizzard Theater, as opposed to the Mackinac Center for Performing Arts. Will be at the Blizzard in Elgin, and we're going to be up there December 2nd. And as always, I'll take the stage with Thomas Jefferson, and we'll talk for 30, 40 minutes, and then for 30 or 45 minutes, you get a chance to ask questions, too. I'll ask him, what does he make of statues in his honor or anybody else's? I'll ask him, what does he think about calling fallen families? I'm not exactly sure what we're going to talk about. It's old stuff, it's new stuff, and you get to ask questions, too. I'll ask him about wine, maybe apple pie. I'm not sure. That's the joy of these conversations. They're always true to Jefferson. You will hear more verbatim Jefferson quoted than maybe people heard in Jefferson's day. I'm not kidding. Jefferson wrote thousands of letters. He didn't memorize them. Our Jefferson did. So when he's speaking about what our founding fathers thought, said, or did, you're literally getting it from the horse's mouth, except the horse has been dead for a while. So that'll be one show, and then we do another show a short while later. That is, we'll do a morning show and an early afternoon show. And Meriwether Lewis will come to the stage. And Meriwether Lewis and I will talk about maybe the single greatest American exploration story ever, the greatest adventure story in American history, period. And we'll tell that in the first person. And that's spectacular fun. Again, funny show, the way we present it. And you'll get a chance to ask questions as well. All of the details at wgnradio.com/events. Just a quick note here. Two magazine covers. The one dated October 16th in the New Yorker has only the black outlines of cartoon bullets, just little black bullets scattered all across the cover, and then a name on each one of the bullets, a bullet for every person that was killed in the Nevada and the Las Vegas shooting. It's really powerful that way. It personalizes them. You see the bullets. It's very thought-provoking. The cover of Time magazine this week just arrived on my doorstep today. And boy, there was Harvey Weinstein, living the life. Life was good for Harvey. He made money. He flirted with successful people. He traveled in elite circles. He was a serial predator, and he was getting away with it. Until one day, the New York Times said, you know what? It stops today. And all of a sudden, everybody noticed the elephant in the room. So there's what they do, when they have a bad guy. They did this to O.J. You make a grainy black and white photo of them that shows every sad-shaped freckle on your face. So there he is, close up, black background, black and white photo of him, kind of looking askance. He's looking at you sideways. And he just looks terrible. He literally looks like a bear. He's got an unshaven face, as is his wont. He must think that's a good look. Harvey, it's not working. And his collar's unbuttoned, and he looks positively menacing. And the cover simply says, Producer, Predator, Pariah. And that's the cover of Time. If you don't read it, you'll know a lot about that story right there. And in fact, Heidi Stevens wrote about it in the Chicago Tribune. She referenced a piece that was in the New York Times recently where one of the women that's a star on The Big Bang Theory said, ladies, and then she made her point about feminism these days and about being sexy and flirtatious in Hollywood. And so she made that point, and then Heidi and everybody else has another point. We'll talk about the two sides of that coin after 1:30 here on WGN. Steve, I posted on my Facebook page, or when was it? Mid-July.
Yeah.
We were halfway through President Trump's first year in office, right? January, February, March, April, May, June, July. So when we got to the halfway point, we posted the President Trump cuckoo brackets, things that made you scratch your head. You couldn't believe that happened, but there it was. And there were so many of those moments in the first 6 months, and we were getting accustomed to his behavior that, we started to write them down. You had things like like when he said John McCain wasn't a good enough hero, or when he gave that speech to the Boy Scouts, or when he invited the women that he said President Clinton assaulted to one of the town hall meetings or debates with Hillary. And you just couldn't believe it. It was one stunt or act after another. So we did a 20-team bracket. And as you may recall, the final four were his weird handshakes. I was going to say Kofifi, but no, it wasn't Kofifi. What was it? It was the final four were Clinton women at the debate. The Montenegro shove. Remember when the Prime Minister of Montenegro was at that summit? The G7 or G14 or whatever it was, 14, 15, whatever it takes.
G, get out of my way.
That's what it was. And he realized that he wasn't front and center, so he just shoves that guy out of the way like he's a stagehand and stepped in front of the Prime Minister from Montenegro. That made it to the Final Four. It's so bespoke, Trump's vision of himself and his behavior. The other two in the Final Four, and the Sean Spicer first press conference about the crowd size did not make the Final Four, and yet I had that one winning it all. The other two in the Final Four were the Boy Scout Jamboree speech, easily one of the nuttiest public pronouncements by presidents ever, and McCain is not a hero.
As I remember, it was a fluid bracket, right? Because
that was the problem. Every time it was like putting a book on the shelf and then the one on the other end keeps falling off. We finally cut it off in July at 20 because we were never finishing the bracket. Every day something else would trump something else. So we came up with that 20 teams. You all voted. And you said that, what was the winner then, Elif? So the nuttiest moment in the first 6 months of Trump's presidency was the Boy Scout speech, wasn't it?
BSA speech, yep.
The BSA speech. Hard to argue with that, except all the others deserve some credit too now, don't they? So we said, okay, in 6 months we'll do it again. And we're about halfway through the next 6 months. So I've just been working on it. In fact, if you follow me on Twitter, I'm WGN King John on Twitter. WGN King John on Twitter. We just posted a picture of me in front of the Trump 1.2 brackets. And so here's what you've had since then. I mean, the first 6 months, it was just whiplash, right? Not that it's changed necessarily, but you're sort of used to it now. But if you say, okay, the first 6 months, go to the end of July, what's happened since then? Here's what we have. The mooch, the whole Scaramucci story, that whole 2-week arc came and went. The mooch is an entity unto itself in the brackets. The police speech, where he said you don't have to be nice to suspects. The fire and fury speech, will rain fire and fury on North Korea like the world has never seen. That had people scratching their heads. Charlottesville happened, and his inability to handle that, remember the many sides, bad people on both sides. The UN speech, where he called Kim Jong-un Rocket Man. The mayor, the fight he picked with the San Juan mayor after the hurricane went through there, that whole episode. So we just put San Juan mayor fight. The moron, not a moron episode. And now Obama didn't make calls to the Gold Star families. All of that to get to this point about that. It's just another line in the brackets. So yesterday, when I was suggesting that however fascinating or depressing or important this is, we need to sort of keep some sort of perspective about it. We haven't learned anything about President Trump in the last week that we didn't know before. In fact, I have 28 other examples that are akin to this. So, yeah, let's talk about it. Yeah, let's beat him up because that feels good. But I'm not sure that resolving what the president meant, or is he a liar, or is he insensitive, or does he lack empathy, I'm not sure that resolving this debate or trying to win this argument is doing anybody any good. your witness. You don't have anything to say about that.
I'm sorry, John. I was distracted.
It's okay. It was really good, too.
I'm sure it was. You were talking about the...
You really were working in the newsroom.
I was. I was doing
no,
several
that's
different
okay.
things at once.
That's okay. That's okay. No. Don't try and fix it. Do this. It's 1:20. I have to pause anyway. My number's 312-981-7200. So I'm just interested in your feedback on this. I mean, I'm going to talk a little bit more about it. In fact, I want to play another piece of audio for you today. But do you agree with me that, while this is just reprehensible, it's the latest team in the reprehensible tournament? And we really would be better off not focusing so much energy on this as trying to figure out what that bipartisan health care bill is about. And yet on the morning news, it's dominating that. Every time they get a chance to ask the president, they're still asking him about it. Way too much energy is being spent on, did the president act appropriately after those soldiers died in Niger, or was he, as empathetic as the Bushes and Clintons and Obamas and so forth? That's just sort of my cautionary observation for the week. It's 1:21. Still to come, we'll visit with Thomas Jefferson, third president of these United States. Heidi Stevens is in our studio, the Tribune columnist. Oh, and Joel Stein, the darty, funny, and friendly Joel Stein from Time Magazine, the essayist who writes their almost weekly awesome column, will join us in the 2 o'clock hour. His piece the other day about leadership was, once again, laugh out loud funny. And so he'll talk to us a little bit about leadership. Maybe he can tell us what the Cubs need to do to win. How depressing was that last night? It's just not fun watching the NLCS, even when your team is in it.
It's really not fun. Maybe, we shouldn't be saying this because we waited so long, and here it is the third year in a row.
We're so spoiled, right?
I was thinking that, we're like Braves fans now. We're in the 90s.
Oh, we are so not Braves fans. Really? Braves fans don't even go to playoff games. Remember that? You'd see the Braves because every year they were in at least the NLDS and sometimes the CS, and you'd see empty seats, and you go, how is that possible? I'll tell you what, last night at that game, that crowd was into it. They were there for the Cubs. Lordy, they were rooting them on. They cared about every pitch. And it was a bad game. It's just like we're not hitting. Our pitching is okay. We're making ridiculous plays. There were moments last night I thought, what's going on here? I thought, wait, it wasn't Ian Happ. When Ian Happ caught that ball, center field, banged into the wall, and the ball popped out, I thought that was a catch, especially in slow motion because he had it longer. But I thought that looked like an actual catch. I posted on my Twitter account a picture of Daisy, my dappled dachshund, reacting to Carl Edwards walking Hugh Darvish. By the way, after Darvish, their pitcher gets a walk-off, not a walk-off, but a bases-loaded walk to score a run. How embarrassing is that? He did a bat flip? He did a bat flip. I didn't notice that until this morning.
You mean after the walk?
Yeah. He just kind of flips his bat like, take that, Chicago, and strolls. I'm not one for beaning people, but somebody needs to go down tonight. And not that we can afford to give up more base runners, but good grief. In our house, we have no respect. We have nothing. We are striking out a lot. So hopefully they'll turn the tide and win the next 4 games starting tonight. Hopefully that'll all happen starting this evening. Pick up a couple of phone calls here. John, you're on WGN Radio. We were talking about Trump and his calling the Gold Star families. What did you want to say?
Well, I just wanted to say I'm totally with you. But since you were talking about the Cubs,
yeah,
the play of last night was after Javi tagged out Puig and was shaking his finger at him. I just burst out laughing. I was fit to be tied, but when I saw that, I'm like, okay, at least there's some grain of dignity left with the team that they're not going to let them steamroll them all over them.
Yeah, a little moxie still. Yeah, and if anybody would have it, it would be Baez.
Yeah.
And boy, if you did want to kick the dust in anybody's face, it would be Puig, too. I mean, good grief.
Yeah, after he pointed out the center field, and what was that, game 1 or 2?
Yeah, right.
I thought at that point somebody should have thrown at that guy the very next time he came up to